Hi, this is Elvis Dean for thecreativecow.net. Every once in a while I get an email from someone who's made a clip of themselves throwing fireballs around their living room or backyard, and the one thing that always strikes me about it is that there's never any light contributed to the actor who's holding this fireball. And so here's a little trick that I use every once in a while. So here's some footage we shot against a green screen of me pretending to throw a fireball, and I pulled the key before I brought in a particle illusion. And I'm going to use this sun. I've already actually animated it to save us some time here, and this sun makes a great fireball. But one thing about it you'll notice is unless the emitter is right over top of my face or my arm, there's no glow really contributed to me, and that sort of breaks the realism of the scene. There is a bit there from one of the particle types, the glow particle type. And if we increase the size, we can see how, because it's an intense effect, it's just brightening the areas of the video. And that kind of works in this case, where you can see it shining on my face. But if we wanted to have a little more control over where the light's falling, rather than just when it crosses. So in this case, if we wanted to add a glow to the side of my face and to my arm, we can just grab another simple particle emitter, and this one is just it's a line emitter with some intense particles with a very low visibility. So I'm just going to add a new layer here, and I'm going to drop 3 points, one at the wrist, at the elbow, and at the shoulder. And what I'm going to do is animate these. I'm going to speed up the video here a little bit so it goes a little faster so you're not waiting around, but I'm basically going to animate these to follow along the side of my arm where I think the light from the fireball would be glowing. And even though it's overlapping over the side of my arm and onto the background, that's not going to matter. We're going to adjust that in After Effects later on by using something called a track matte. So here's just a quick run through of what it would look to animate all that. And again, for the side of my face, wherever I wanted to glow there. This is just a really rough version. If you could also, if you would really wanted to, do a similar effect with a shadow emitter. So just rather than using intense particles on the glower particle type, you would use just black particles and on the other side of my face, as if that fireball is not only casting light, but it's also casting shadows. So here we go. Here's our finished animation. It's pretty rough, but it'll do the job. What I'm going to do now is just hide both the particles and the background on this layer and turn the background back to black, and I'm just going to render that out with an alpha channel. So just click the Save Output button and call it Relit, and I'm going to save it as a PNG file. It's just my favorite format. And save the alpha channel with Remove Black Background. So here we are in After Effects now, and I've loaded up both that background footage, the rendered out fireball, and placed it over a black layer as our background, temporary background. And so I'm going to grab the relit layer that I just rendered out and bring it into the composition. Now you can see here again we've got that excess of overhanging light. So I'm just going to drop that down below the sunball layer, and there's a couple of things we're going to do here to make it look a little better than this. Right now it's kind of a mess. If we take a look at the half-size keyed footage there and hide the black background layer, we'll notice that we have our alpha channel information here. So that's what we're going to use basically to trim the light from the relit layer. And I'll show you how we're going to do that. First I'll select the half-size keyed and go Edit, Duplicate. And I'll just move that layer up one above the relit and hide it. Basically what we're going to do now is use a track matte. A track matte allows you to use the alpha channel information from one, or the luma information from one layer, and apply it to another layer. So just by selecting the half-size keyed layer, alpha channel, there we go. We've trimmed off the excess stuff that was bleeding off onto the background. Now what I'm going to do, just to make this look a little better, is to put a fast blur on the relit layer and bring that up quite a bit so that there's no visible edges to the particle effect. flicker that on and off, you could see the difference that makes. And another thing I'm going to do is change the mode from normal to add. Now you could experiment with what sort of effects you want to use, what sort of different transfer modes looks best to you, depending on your effect. I'm also going to go into the transforms and find the opacity and just bring that down to a level that's so it's not washing my face out entirely. Now again, you might want to play around with the colors a little, make it a little more orange, a little more golden. But that gives us a pretty good start to a glowing effect. And I'll just fade it out when the light is overlapping where it shouldn't be. And so that's how it looks. Let's play that at a little bigger size. Now, as I said, you could add shadows and other things in a similar fashion. Here's our finished clip that was on the SIGGRAPH 2006 reel for Wonder Touch. So thanks for watching, and if you haven't already, check out the Apprentice Magician's Guide to Particle Illusion from training.creativecow.net. Thanks.